Guys, I know I say this all the time, but it's true. Everything comes from spirit. So I'm just thinking about how ironic it is that yesterday I was kind of having a, lowly day because I didn't get much sleep. And realized what a gift that was because we ended up with a totally different recording yesterday than what we would have got had I just woken up and is feeling as wonderfully energetic as I do today. So this also got me thinking right now here in this very moment that if you are not getting good sleeps at night, first of all, this is something that I could help you with if we had some private sessions. But if it doesn't take that, you could also go and just look up hypnosis for sleep and listen to whatever recording is out there, and it really, really could help you. Because wow, what a thing to not get sleep. I can't even, don't know how people do it without getting help. So anyways, today we are going to be talking about our creative mind. I don't know why this keeps coming up, but these words just keep coming out of my mouth. And even the words creative mind seems like something that I wouldn't, I'm not like drawn to it, but these words keep getting given to me. So this must be divine intervention, which everything comes from the spirit. So obviously it is. If you're tuning in today, welcome. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Love you. We talk about all things spiritual, divine insights, and really help you to just kind of, come into contact with the truth of being through the divine love. So when we're talking about the creative mind, let's talk about the fact that you can literally use your mind for anything that you want. And now some people use it for good and some people use it for bad. But we're going to talk about how you can use it for good and get that creativity. So I'm going to tell you about a block that I had that I didn't even know that I had many years ago. So this would be about 11 years ago. I had my very first hypnosis session. This was done, performed for me by a friend of mine, and she was actually the one who introduced me to hypnosis in the first place. Prior to that, I knew nothing about it, hadn't really considered it. The only thing I knew about it was, people go up on stage at hypnosis events and then they do funny things. That was the extent of knowing what I knew about it. I knew nothing about that, it's the way that you change and program your subconscious mind, and it's essentially like the most significant mental health tool that exists that almost nobody knows about because of the ignorance surrounding it, meaning there's no education that is really around this. This is one of the reasons why I just love going and talking at schools, elementary schools, high schools, and just letting them know, the possibilities that are out there. And I really like, at the end of class when everybody's just got that smile on their face and they're like, man, I just heard something I've never heard anywhere else before. It's really rewarding, and I just think, I've given these kids these tools that they can go forward, they can have less stress in their life. What a wonderful thing. What a beautiful thing that it is. So anyways, back to the first hypnosis session that I ever experienced. So this has to do with the creative mind being unlocked and unleashed. And this was something I didn't see coming. It was something I didn't ask for. It was something I didn't even know that I wanted or needed in my life. So here's how it goes. My friend, who had been a psychologist for 20 years at this point, is like, hey, I took my hypnotherapy training, and while I was doing this, you kept coming to mind, and I feel like you need to do this. You need to do this. The whole time I was taking it, I kept thinking of you, and I was like, that's weird. I know nothing about it. But, I trust this woman, so I'm like, all right, cool. Didn't really, think anything of it. So then she comes out to my house and comes to visit, and she's like, hey, I want to do a session with you. I'm like, okay, cool, let's do it. So we do it, but I'm doing this for something that at that time I did not believe in. And I was doing this for a test, essentially on hypnosis, to see not only is this going to work, is this a thing, I had curiosity around it, but I was kind of doing it in like I bet that this isn't really gonna, work for me kind of way. Like that was kind of my attitude going into it. Did I want it to work? Yes. Did I believe in it? Pretty much no. Okay, so the reason why she thought that this was such a significant and amazing thing is because, like I said, as a psychologist of 20 years, she had many clients that she was working with. And she said that she went from seeing these clients for 1 to 3 years to then seeing them for only 1 to 3 sessions, because it was actually taking their issues away. It was actually healing them. What a significant, amazing thing that is. She since has now given up her psychology license because they had too many rigid rules around it, and she wasn't allowed to do what she wants, meaning she wasn't allowed to actually heal the people. And she is also a intuitive, so she kind of would know what people need. This is similar to myself. When people come to me, I already know. I might even already have a couple sentences or a paragraph or something written out of why that person's coming, whether I've met them or not, whether they've talked to me or not. It doesn't matter. I'm tuning into their energy before they're coming, and I'm figuring out, what are we going to do today? I already know. So they could talk to me for half an hour and tell me all kinds of things. We're still doing the things that I was already intuitively told to do when they came, and that seems to be the ticket. That's the meal ticket. That's the thing that creates the healing. So anyways, she does this session for me. And in the session, what came through? So I was doing this for past lives. Did I believe in past lives at the time? No. Did I, after the fact, still kind of was leery about it? So anyways, we do this session. There was maybe a couple lives that I saw. There was, for sure, there was one that was I remember really nice, peaceful. I'm sitting on a fence with this boy who was my best friend, and I was told he is a guide that I have in my life, that he didn't come here with me in this life, that he came as a guide, but that me and him had been best friends multiple lifetimes. And I was also told maybe a couple months ago that he was going to come back and be here in this life with me and appear at some point, and I would know, and he was going to come and help me in this life. So anyways, that's kind of a side note, not what I was originally going to talk about. So we go through these past lives. So then here's the significant past life. So I'm really going to tell you guys about this one because I believe I need to, and that it's significant. And what it has to do with unleashing the creative mind, couldn't tell you. Maybe you can help me figure this out, but this was the result that came from it. So in this life, I am in Bora Bora, and I had seen this through meditations before, that I had seen myself on the island, like on the beach, laying in the sand with my little children. And I remember in this meditation that I did, which was in like a workshop, like years prior, maybe a year prior, I'm not sure exactly how long before. This is going on 11 years now, so everything muddles together. But anyways, I had seen this place, and it was like, this felt like home. And so through my meditation, I'm in the sand, I'm in the beach, I'm in the water, and it was just like my heart could not have been any more full than the love that I had being there with my family. It was so wonderful. And I remember in this meditation, because it was during a workshop, so I'm not talking about the hypnosis session, but prior to this, same scene, that she was like, okay, we're coming back and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I didn't want to. I didn't want to leave that place ever. I could have stayed there for forever, for eternity. It was so wonderful. So anyways, this then past life session that she is doing for me here 11 years ago, this same place comes up. But this time, rather than it being beautiful and peaceful, I had a few moments of that. It was not. I saw then, and I'm just trying to decide, yes, I can speak about this. Okay, so then I saw my children, then, they've now passed, and they were young, and they're floating in the ocean, and I'm there, and I'm grief-stricken, and I see that there is a boat that is coming in to the harbor, and like this is a long, like hundreds of years ago, and I'm seeing that there's a boat that is coming in, and I recognize and I realize, they have done this to my children. So, and at that point, I had a husband, like he or whoever he would have been to me there. We had a family, But he then, at this point, is then gone too. And so I don't know what happened to him, but I'm now by myself. And so I see this scene of the children, and what I am seeing here and what I am feeling and experiencing, and I've seen this happen with my clients, is I am now feeling that grief flowing through my body from head to toe. And it was awful. It was just, it was horrible. But what I recognized at this time when this was going on was that this was the same feeling that I would once in a while get if I would speak to my mom on the phone. Now, you know now, even just hearing this, that it had nothing to do with my mom, and I had always kind of questioned it, like weird, like she's nice, she would, like, why would this be? Why would I have this weird feeling only when I'm speaking to her on the phone? That, I'm still not sure how she links up to it, but that feeling would come up. And I know from working with my clients and going back that sometimes they will have some significant body issue, like because there has been clients who have been relieved of weird physical ailments or symptoms just from having a past life session, because it had something to do with the past life and them carrying that energetic imprint forward into this life and it sticking with them. And because you are the energy that underlies your body, that energetic system, it then affects your physical body here and might make you feel weird or might, whatever it would happen to be. So in this life, I've seen the children, and now I'm grief stricken. So now my life flashes forward, and I am older, and I'm gonna guess that I was maybe 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe older than this. And I see myself, and she is now a medicine woman, like a typical, what you would imagine a back in the day medicine woman, with the beads and the medicines and the potions and the things in her little hut. And so my friend who was doing the session for me says, ask her, what she wants to tell you. And her message to me, like that version of me back in the day, was, don't do what I did. It won't bring you any relief. And so I'm like, what did she do? And so I saw, that she was performing, ceremonies and doing this and doing that and just trying to heal it, this grief, this loss that she had had, but there was nothing that she could do that would make it any better. And so it was kind of showing me, I know now the only thing that can heal something like that is divine love, and she wasn't operating out of that place at that time because she didn't know. She didn't know that she could. She wasn't there yet. She didn't know. So that was her message to me. And so then my friend doing the session intuitively asks me, because this is very significant, did you pass on? Did you pass to the light, or did you stay behind? And I said, ooh, yes, I passed on, but then I saw myself still there and still kind of, wandering around in this place. And I was like, okay, well, no, she says that I passed and I can see that she did, but I also see that she also stayed. And so, that was kind of the end of it. And then, we finish up our session. I open my eyes and I'm like, immediate thought is like, oh man, like I must have made all that up. Like, where did all of that interesting information come from? How, like what? I must have made it all up. That's what I'm thinking. So I go into investigation mode. Obviously, you probably would too. Because I think that maybe she had given me dates, or I had given her dates. She'd asked me these significant things, and I was like, what was their religion, on those islands? And like, I want to know, like, is this even possible? Was there even medicine people there? I know it's, French Polynesia. I wasn't speaking French while I was there. Like, what's the deal? So upon investigating this, I discover that they used to, before the Spaniards, or the French, I guess it would have been, whoever the Catholics were on that boat that came over there, that were trying to, get everybody to believe what they were believing and murder my children, before they came over, it was exactly like that. There was the medicine people, and it was, I guess, what you would consider pagan. That's what you would consider that. However, looking at this now, I'm like, they probably were a lot more in line with the Native Americans' beliefs, which, I think that those, for the most part, depending on whatever it is, are wonderful. So, it just depends, but it was very earthy type, connected to the earth medicine that she was working with at this time. So I'm investigating this, and it's like, okay, well, so now most of the people there now are Catholic. Well, why? Because these boats came in and killed all the people that weren't, obviously. And so the people that were then now there were Catholic. They took on their religion. But this is the significant part. It says, for those, even still to this day, that many of them still believe, they still hold on to part of that old tradition, that when they die, part of their soul goes on to the light, but part of it stays to wander. And I was like, what? This is exactly what I seen. And this is years ago, and I didn't read about it before. I didn't know anything. I've never even heard of that before in my life. You're probably hearing this for the first time yourself as well. Like that I was like, what? What are the chances of that? And that it was so specific that part goes and part stays to wander. And so from that moment on, I was like, all right, well, honestly, that had to be real. Now, here's what came from that session. This is why this is so significant. Because after that session, that feeling that I would get, that weird, nervousy, whatever feeling that I had got when I would speak to my mom on the phone, it went away and it didn't come back. Okay, and I'm talking and I'm telling you, it had been there for as long as I could remember. As long as I could remember, that feeling was there. And I remember while I would have it, and I would be on the phone with her, I would be thinking to myself, this must be normal. Like other people must feel this way. It was just kind of this weird, nervousy feeling. And I'm telling you guys, I don't get nervous about things. If you told me, hey, I want you to go and speak in front of 10,000 people, I'd be like, right on, sounds great. I wouldn't get that feeling. So for me to have that when I'm talking on the phone with somebody, this is freaking weird. This was odd to me. But now, since that session, I've been totally free from it. Don't have it anymore. That's not the cool part. This is the cool part. After this session, I then began to paint. I had never really had any interest in it before. I might go and, buy a ceramic little snowman and paint him up for Christmas, or, I might do little things like that, but I wouldn't sit down and paint a picture, unless I was copying Bob Ross back in the day. 7th grade, I think, was the last time that I remember doing that. But after the session, I all of a sudden really felt this pull to paint. So I was like, oh man, I feel like it. So I go and I take a couple canvases and I sit down in my living room, and I got all these paints, and I just start laying some paint on that canvas. And by the end of it, I was like, this is unbelievable what I have created here. What an amazing piece of art. And I'm not trying to brag on myself. I'm telling you that there was some type of creative block that was released during that session. Now, did my session have anything to do with painting? No. Did it have anything to do with creativity? Also no. Did it have anything to do with any of the results that came from it? Also no. So this is why past life sessions can be so super significant for people, because sometimes we have things, these energetic attachments, these energies underlying our body that are not even from here. And so there are things that are unexplainable. So if I have someone and they're like, oh, I've just kind of always felt this way, do I assume it's a past life? No. I'm going to assume that it came from childhood and that they just don't remember something 4 years and younger. And often that's the case. So sometimes it'll be 4 years and younger. Sometimes it'll be somebody who's left in their crib alone to cry, and now they, feel like they're not lovable. Sometimes people will go back to the womb, back into the womb, where they also feel like, maybe there was some chaos going around, or they don't feel like they were loved or wanted or something like that. But to go to a past life as an adult is a rather rare occurrence. I would say that unless I'm unless my client is wanting this and I am directing them towards that, it would probably only happen 1.5% of the time. This is just me going off of thinking every 100 people, maybe it would happen 1 to 1.5% of the time. However, with children, it's actually very, very significant. I would say maybe even 35% of the time, maybe not quite that, probably about that, 30% of the time, that they would go back to a past life. I could have a young child, a girl in my chair, and I do all regression therapy, so meaning I will have them bring up the presenting issue or feeling that they have, and we'll follow that feeling back. And when you're in a subconscious state, you can do that. And so we follow it back. And so then sometimes, this young girl that I will have in my chair all of a sudden is telling me that she's, some older man, and that this is what's going on in her life. And it's like, oh, okay. Oh, and you have a family, and I'm just doing therapy with them, subconscious therapy, like I would be with anybody else. I'm just going to investigate and hear about this. So sometimes if you have a child and they have some behavior that is very unexplainable, it could be from that. Also, sometimes with children, I have regressed them back. I've seen this before, where they will go to an alien planet, or they themselves are an alien. And you could say, and I used to think, well, maybe people are making this up, just like I thought, I was making it up, but I don't think that for 1 second. And even if it was, it resolves their problems. Whatever they came to me for, and then they leave and they now don't have their problem. Well, if the place that we visited was a past life or some other place in the universe, and they now don't have their problem, well, it did its job. That was what they were meant or needed to see. But through seeing this, I love working with kids. Seeing this, working with children, it's just been so fascinating and so interesting what will come up. And people will say like, oh, I probably made that up. Well, I got to tell you, from the hundreds of past life regressions that I've done, nobody has the same. Not one person has the same story. They were not that same character. They were not that same, like, everybody doesn't go back and say, oh, I was Albert Einstein. No, it doesn't happen. Maybe they worked with them, maybe they this, maybe they that, but for someone to say that they were the same person as somebody else that I have seen, that has never happened. So even if people believe that they're making it up, I guess it really doesn't matter, because the results will still come from it. And whether this was their past life, which I 100% believe that it was their past life, or whether it was just information that was passed down through your DNA, how could we know? How could we prove this? So I've had many very extremely different past lives. Hey, by the way, if you ever wanted to check out yours, you could check out the Mental Cleanse series, and there is a video on there called Past Life Session, Past Life something or other, and you could go and check one out yourself. I'll post it in here. Of course, if I remember, under the Mental Cleanse series, when you see it pop up in your screen there, just click on that and go find the past life one, if you're curious about it, which I'm sure you are if you're still listening. But anyways, I've had so many significantly different past lives, and each of them kind of, they served a different purpose. So in some of them, I was this very powerful person that had, this kingdom. I had my palace. I was in charge, and I was a very harsh and, whatever kind of leader at that time. And then other ones, I've been a church pastor out in maybe Scotland as a man, and just like living this really peaceful life. I've been a native man. I've seen that native life many times. It is very significant to my current life, because there was karma that occurred there that I didn't have time to resolve in that life because I was killed. And so then I came here and had to resolve that karma now in this life. And so that karma that I know from that life was to do with forgiveness of my own father. So it was very interesting to see that life, because, he had, in that life, he had killed my son. And so, I don't even like speaking these words out. This causes me, it's causing me an issue, but I feel like I really want to speak about this, and I really want to tell you. So he had done something to me, or to my son, and so of course I'm grief-stricken, but I'm also Native at this time, and my beliefs at that time was, oh no, I'm getting revenge on you. And so I did. So he had a significant size of a family, and I got extreme revenge on him. Now, at my passing, I am unsure if he knew what I had already done to his family. Unclear about that. I have gone back to this past life, I think 5, 6 times, 7, maybe more, many times. And every time that I would go back, so this is not typical. If I was to regress somebody in my office and I was to take them to a past life, we're going to kind of explore the things. I'm going to ask questions about it and blah, blah, blah. And then if they came back to me again in the future, are they going to go back to that same past life? No, they won't. But the fact that I went back working with several different practitioners that were doing these sessions for me, that I went back and that I would keep going back to that life, it was significant. It's like, oh, there's so much more that needs to be discovered here. So the last time I went back with my friend Gary, he is a wonderful, wise, intuitive man, he's an astrologer, and he also practices hypnosis. He does it very different than what I would do, and I really loved how he did this with me. So he takes me back into that past life where this man has done this to my son. I have now got revenge on him, and he takes me to the end of that life where I'm on a pole, strapped up to a pole, and they're gonna end me. And so then he's like, okay, so then what happens here? So then I start floating up upon my passing, and I am met up in the clouds with that man who had taken the life of my son and who I got revenge on, and it's just me and him up there. And we then realize, oh, this is why we came here. It was about forgiveness, and we didn't do that. We did the opposite of the thing, and it was like, okay, now we understand we are going to have to come back here, and we have to finish this forgiveness. We have to do it again. And so it was kind of an understanding of, okay, well, he, as in my dad in this life, who was that man who did that to my son in that life, he is going to have to come back here, and he is going to have to inflict some type of wound that would need forgiveness. So we had to do this life over again. This is why I say, if you need to forgive somebody, you have to do it. Do you want to come back here and do it again? You don't want to have to do that. Trust me, if you're here and there's someone you need to forgive, this is part of the purpose and part of the lesson of why you're here. Do you want to keep coming back and having to forgive that same person? I don't freaking think that you do. And the only way that you can get out of it is through genuine, true, compassionate forgiveness. And does it take a lot of work? It freaking takes a lot of work. I would say that it took me years and 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 years to be able to actually truly forgive my father. At the point when I wanted to forgive him, I began to forgive him. From that time, it was probably a good 5, 6, 7 years until I was actually able to I've fully 100%, 1 million billion percent forgiven him now. But had I not known that I needed to, had I not seen that past life where I was told that I needed to, that in-between little place there, had I not known that, I don't know that I would have done it. I don't know that I would have understood the significance of forgiveness at that time. So I don't know that I would have done it. So what a valuable gift that these past life sessions were for me. Because not only did they unlock that creativity there in my mind, and I began to paint, and maybe I'll make one of my paintings one of the thumbnails here, so that you can see what I'm talking about. And I'm not saying that I'm freaking some amazing something or other, but I can do something that I couldn't do before. It unlocked something in me that was not part of my present life until after that session. So the creativity that can come from it, that was my result. I don't know what your result would be, because so I started painting and I got rid of that feeling that I had. So what would your results be? I have absolutely no idea. There was a man who, his significant wound in another life was being stabbed in the back. And so he always had this pain there in his back. And upon seeing this, that pain went away. So he doesn't have it anymore. Had another woman who had her death wound, that it held her arm down and she couldn't get out. She was trapped somewhere, and that was it. She was there forever. And so she didn't have time to resolve any of the energetic karma, any of the energetic stuff that was going on in her body, because that was the death wound. So there was no time to deal with the karma. So so this is coming to mind, so I want to speak on this too. If somebody commits suicide, bless their heart, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Because you are going to have to come back and deal with that same energy, that same harshness, plus you're going to have more. Because what wounds are your family then going to have to deal with? And you'll have to deal with any inflictions that you put on other people, whether you're here or not. You will have to deal with the karma from that at some point. You can't escape it. There's no escaping it. This is why the highest thing that you can seek while you are here is divine loving alignment. This is what sets you free. When you're free, when you don't have any of those things that need to be resolved, because you've put yourself into that alignment, you've put yourself into the highest vibrational frequency that exists, you then might want to come back to be a teacher. You might want to come back to spread the word and to help other people, but you might not, and you would then have the choice. You can be choosing and making different decisions for yourself. Do I want that, or do I want something higher for myself? What is it that is best for my soul's expansion? What is it that is best for spiritual purposes? And so those things can change, and those things can be significantly different when you have cleansed away all the low frequency, the low vibrational energies, so like anger and resentment and grief and guilt and sadness and all of the lower things that keep you out of that beautiful, loving, divine alignment. When you cleanse away all of these things, and you've done this before your death, then you don't need to return again and again and again and again and again to do those things, because you did them. You understand that they are significant. You've learned there's been a different spiritual purpose that has now been fulfilled through that forgiveness and through the letting go of those low frequency, those low vibrational energies. And it is through this that freedom comes, because you've now put yourself in alignment with the love that exists within absolutely every single thing that exists. So this is what I have for you guys today. I guess that creative mind did have some nice flourishing words that came out of it. So thanks for that, divine. Everything obviously comes from the divine. So thank you for that, divine. Thank you for being so divine and tuning in here today. I love you all so very much. I hope you take wonderful care. And I will see you guys in tomorrow's podcast episode as per usual. Have a wonderful evening or day or afternoon. And I will see you then. Take care, my loves. Have a great one.